All right, doing record for a minute or two here and see if it just smooths itself out.
Tell you what I'll do if I ever get back. I promise to fabricate you.
I'd like to guys introduce you guys real quick to our special guest. Just had him come into the room. Everybody, please welcome Tom Thummery.
On this episode of Omegle.
I'm here, and your white privileges are going to save you tonight, okay, guys?
That's right. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 88 of the Dog and Chicken Show. Off to my side here is the one, the only Tony fucking G. How you doing, fella?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very well. It's been a while since we've entered the pre-recorded world and see if we remember how to do it, but I think we can manage. I think we can manage
because down below we have KOE Nation holding us up.
Oh, yes, folks. Welcome one and all to Big Buckin' Empire, episode 88. We dive deep. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil KOE, joined by a couple of indomitable broadcast partners. And Tony, telling him that this is recorded, you're exposing the business, Tony. My goodness, my word.
They knew that. They all knew that. Because everybody watching this watched last week's live show, obviously. So we told them.
If our time on the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast has taught us anything, is you always pretend you're live.
Yeah. Well, we're not live?
No, we're not.
Fucking might as well end the show. That's it. See you next week, folks.
All right, thanks, folks.
Bye. But no, folks, thank you for joining us, and give us a like, a share, subscribe right here to Big Buckin' Empire. You know it's the right thing to do. Also, check us out at Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast. While all you beautiful people come on in, because we have quite the discussion and quite the topic for you this evening. But before we get into that, I'm Phil KOE of KOE Nation on YouTube and Twitch. Be sure to check that out. So, Chicken, Tony, what is the topic du jour this evening?
Well, first, as always, what will we drinking tonight? I'm starting off with my normal Crown and Coke, and I may let the two of you decide what bottle I open, as I have so many unopened ones over here to the side.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm just sipping on a little bit of Balvenie 15 years sherry cask, and figured that'd be my start out.
I almost bought a bottle of that.
Oh, try mine first. See if you like it. It's very, very heavy on the sherry. It's all sherry cask.
Oh, I'll like it.
You're gonna be used to the sherry finish, but this is all sherry cask, so it's very heavy on the sherry. But then I'm gonna switch over and just do some very cheap, simple Glen Moray sherry cask finished. So that's what I got going.
Nice. Phil, what you got?
Since we're on the subject of sherry, I'm having Lestuyo Pedro Jimenez. Excellent sherry. This is sherry out of Spain, and very sweet, just excellent, approachable. That's
what you had me try the other night, right?
Yeah, I had Tony come over and try it the other night, and it's amazing.
It's amazing. That might be some of the best wine. That's probably the best wine I've ever had. That was incredible.
Bodega de Pedro Jimenez, definitely good stuff. I'm trying to get my hands on some Methuselah sherry. That's some very special 30-year-old sherry, but kind of hard to get out here. But I'm not underserved with my Lestuyo.
Fair enough. And drinking words tonight, as we are talking Ruby Ridge. If you're unfamiliar, we will get you up to speed on this crazy fucking story. But drinking words that go along with it. And this is going to be a fun one, folks. Well, we're going to try to make it fun. Mullet, conspiracy, sniper. Yep, there's skinheads in this story. And of course, if Tony's kids happen to interrupt the show, which always seems to happen,
Yeah.
Get your
Strangely.
drinks up. Oh,
Here we go.
Funny how that works.
it is funny how that works.
Before we start talking about it, we do need to mention that obviously this is pre-recorded. Next week we will be live once again, and we will be doing this alternating weeks. We'll be doing a pre-record, a live, pre-record, live, so on and so forth. But specifically next week, Thursday, May 20th, you
Big
do
one.
not want to miss next week's live show because we are doing our second annual Andre the Giant Beer Drinking Challenge. You got to join us for this one, folks. You got to interact with us on this one. We need your comments. We need your pictures of you slamming a beer. We need your videos, especially because that just makes it that much more fun, that much more interactive. You got to get with us on this one. We're going to whore the hell out of this. We're going to pound this one into your head all over social media.
Last
gotta
year was
get all the love.
fun.
Yeah,
Dude.
we had
We
a lot
got
of fun on
drunk.
this last year.
We got a little loosened up.
Yeah.
last year. I will say we actually achieved the rumored Andre the Giant 156 beers in one night. It took about 30 of us, and we even did the math. And if it would have been 3-2 beer, it strangely enough would have actually been scientifically possible for Andre's metabolism to actually process all that. So,
Yeah.
folks, we're going to try and match that this year. Wish us luck. And yes, all
Yeah.
you beautiful people, be sure to join us. We need your help. Let us know in the comments that you slammed a beard. We will add it to the tally. This is going to be
Yes.
a group effort of all of Big Buckin' Empire coming together.
Yeah. So yeah, like they said, drop a comment. I might even have a call-in line if you want to call in and talk some shit
Yes.
to us.
Love
That'd
it.
be fun. That's something we wanted to do. Usually I just prank call people and we do that on the post shows, but hey, we can try it on a live show and sneak people in that way. We've done it with Mika
Crossed our-
once.
Yeah, that went so well.
Yeah, I know.
Cross our fingers and hope for the
Love you,
best.
Mika. That was a good time. All right.
So,
Let's get into tonight's topic. So Ruby Ridge, Phil, you said it's been a while. Tony, you remember some of it. You read through some of it today. Like, let's start with Phil. Like, what's the big pieces of this story that you remember?
well, the biggest takeaway from this particular incident is Ruby Ridge is, as far as I would say, is kind of patient zero for all of the modern American conspiracy theory. Like, I might be wrong on it, but I think it might actually be the case where this was the genesis of all of our modern conspiracy theory talk. And so to me, it's always a fascinating thing to come back to. And it was one of those things that, like, I hate the fact that some people lost their lives in it. And that was what really kind of got the ball rolling. And then after that, a lot more things happened in the 90s that you just flick the first little domino and they all start going down. And that's now where we are. And so, yeah, in terms of Ruby Ridge, I'll just say it again. It's patient zero for our modern American conspiratorial discourse.
It's interesting, yeah. I was showing Tony some pictures that we're going to show here as we tell the story. I was showing him a couple pictures. I was like, "Holy shit!" Isn't that kind of reminiscent of some shit we've seen in the last few years?
Yeah, the parallels are there. It's like Phil said, this is kind of the jumping off point for a lot of the distrust in the government and people not trusting what they're being told.
Phil said
from any point.
Phil said the C word like 3 times, I think, too. So
He did, yeah. We do need to.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. Well, folks, everybody enjoy your drinks.
Yeah. Yeah, this was kind of one of those domino effect situations where the public outcry to this was so staggering in terms of what was going on, and it was just like so many more things started happening after that were directly correlated to it. And maybe it just opened people's eyes, but that's when the C words started getting to be a lot more accepted in social current events. So I think that was really the biggest impact of it. But yeah, you were right when you said this is the jumping off. I kind of forgot a lot of the main focal points of this siege, if you will, and it was kind of sobering to relive the story again for the first time in a really, really long time. And just yeah, the parallels are there, and it's just very disappointing to see how manipulative agencies can be when they want something, because this exposed that, and that's where a lot of that distrust came from.
Oh yes, yes, for sure. And actually this whole thing started with George Bush Sr. We've all seen the speech where he said there will be a new world order, and I think that was a spark that lit the flames from there on, that caused a lot of this and much of what we're seeing today. But yeah, the big C word, not the 4-letter C word that you're used to hearing here, the big C word that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, George Bush Sr. not gonna do it. Read my lips. No new taxes. We're going back a little ways, folks. We're going back quite a bit of ways here. We're going all the way back to the 90s.
Oh, this would be actually started in late 80s.
Yeah,
that's when. Yeah.
Now I remember from a documentary I watched about this. It was funny that the police that were investigating it, there was this one person who was saying, they were really kind of paranoid folks out in the woods who thought people were watching them. And then the documentary filmmaker then goes, but then it turned out people were watching them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, people were watching them, but
that's the worst part.
They were paranoid.
Just solidified. Yeah,
we'll get to that.
Paranoia in the worst possible way. Like, it's like taking somebody, like, okay, clearly you're out of your mind and you're wrong and you're just being paranoid, and then you just validate them. Like, it's just
why not?
It's the pot in the kettle. It's unbelievable. It's seeing worry and just fulfilling it to its fullest. It's insane to think about.
I'll kick it off here, and then Tony, you got the timeline pulled up, and I'll try to follow along with
different ones. Yeah.
So I'll kick it off. So Randy Weaver's the husband. His wife is Vicky. They had 3 children at the time of moving to Idaho. It was Sarah, Rachel, and Sam. And that was like the order of the age. Sam's the youngest. When they moved there, he's like 10 or 11 or something like that. Before shit goes down, obviously a couple years goes by. But in the late 80s, they leave Iowa, and as we alluded to, they were kind of paranoid folk. They thought the end of the world was coming, new world order, all this weird stuff's going on. And at the time, farmers weren't doing well. They didn't see a future in farming in Iowa. And they did not like the school system. The school systems were telling parents they really had no choices in anything. They couldn't do private school. They couldn't do homeschool. Like they had to just deal with the public school system. So Randy wanted to get his family the hell out of there into a place that he felt was more free. So they picked it's like a 40 or 60 acre plot of land on like a mountainside in like the northern tip of Idaho. Like, damn, you probably spit and you'd hit Canada as how far north that these folks moved up to. So they were committed. They were serious. If you're going to move into that environment and that wilderness, and granted, those are viable reasons, and his family, still was, supportive of him, but like, hey, I get it. I get why you're going. This is before any of the white supremacy things come out that we'll talk about as we go through. This is just your normal, everyday, the world's coming to an end, and I want to be on a side of a mountain in northern Idaho. When that happens, I'm gonna go out on my own terms. That's really how everything that I've seen of their family history into moving there, what it really portrayed to me. Like, and I at that moment I sympathize with them and what we see with some folks today. But to be real, things don't get better as they'd hoped when they get there.
What?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Whoa. All right, it's been over 20 years. Can we give a spoiler now?
Yeah, I
I
know,
think
right?
that's
Too
safe.
soon. Too soon.
Again, there is a movie starring Randy Quaid. Again, perfect casting choice for a conspiracy nut. So yeah, this is.
I mean, the guy's name is
up
Randy.
drink. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the only parallel.
Mhm.
So yeah, he's a former U.S. Army engineer, and it was 83. They moved to this cabin he built on Ruby Ridge. This is 40 miles from the Canadian border, and that's
It
this
was
says
83.
here this.
It was a little bit earlier than I thought. I thought it was like 87 or something.
So that's what
You're
I
probably
thought.
right.
It might be, and this is according to Britannica.com. So I would assume that they'd be correct.
Yeah, we'll go
Let
with
me
it.
check
Fuck
the
it.
other one because the other one I had pulled up was the AP, and
Yeah, some of the
nothing-
timelines
nothing
like
really.
completely skip before everything going
Yeah,
down.
like
Which it's
this AP
important to know
timeline-
why they got there.
Exactly, the AP timeline skips right to 1989. So
Associated
this.
Press.
See, this jumps
I mean,
right
they're
into.
all right. They're no big bucking empire,
I'm
but
right,
the
right.
AP,
No,
they,
not
they,
even close.
they got a little thing going for them.
They'll get there someday, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll
So this
help 'em
just kind of jumps right into Weaver having troubles with the U.S. government when he started going to meetings of the Aryan Nations, the white supremacist group, at its compound in Hayden Lake, Idaho. And I think it probably, I don't like the way it paints that because I think those problems were already there. I think his distrust of the government was already there. Obviously, he was a U.S. Army engineer. I'm thinking that they probably started there. His issues, his paranoia, his distrust of the government. I think it probably started there. I think that's probably what led him to seek out other like-minded people who didn't trust the government. I don't think it was necessarily about the white supremacy, but it doesn't really matter in hindsight at this point. But I think
Right.
that's where the real distrust kind of originated, was his time in the military. He was not a member of the Aryan Nations, but he did share the anti-government views. So it does touch on that. And at one of the meetings, he befriends an informant of the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms, the ATF, who purchased 2 illegal sawed-off shotguns from Weaver in October of 1989.
So
Now, yeah, go
let's-
ahead.
Let's back this up real quick and talk a little bit about the details of this transaction.
Yes.
Like Tony had said, from like 86 to 89, they do attend a meeting or two allegedly. It's sketchy on what the meetings are. Think about this. You're in northern Idaho, in within 20 miles, the only neighbors you have,
Yes.
it's a compound of white supremacist Aryan Nation folks. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to be vital to your survival, and so
They moved
from-
out there to get away from society, not to
Right.
join the white supremacists.
right.
Like,
That wasn't the goal.
The documentary that I watched, like Randy Weaver and the film, they were just having some picnics and stuff out there, and there's nobody else to hang
Right.
out with. So we just been like, I don't entirely believe that.
No.
Yeah.
I'm more than a little
I-
skeptical. On
I
that.
don't think he was balls deep in it, but
No.
he
But no.
was starting to accept some of it. Possibly, I think there's a lot of gray area in there that
For sure.
you can just kind of say, yeah.
But no, this actually does kind of hold with something from a Corbett report, and he talked about how there's entire chapters of the FBI or of the Ku Klux Klan that their only dues-paying members are either informants or undercover agents. So that entire
Wow.
organization would have collapsed by now if it wasn't for FBI infiltration. So I don't know. You're like, hey,
That's
least
kind
you
of
get
funny,
At
actually.
least you're getting your tax dollars on that one. So I mean, that's
Way to go. The government is propping up white supremacists. Son of a bitch.
We knew it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
That's not exactly how I'd put it, but I kind of want the FBI to be balls deep in that kind of a fucking organization, know every last thing they're doing. So
Yeah.
let's be
Yeah.
frank. I mean, if you're
Anyway,
gonna have an FBI,
so
if you're gonna
so
have one,
anyway,
at least have them do that.
so anyway,
Makes sense.
these 2 sawed off shotguns. I'm trying to remember. The guy wanted something like super legally, like he wanted like a fully automatic machine guns. And Randy's like, I can't fucking do that. And so he's like, well, how about you get me some sawed off shotguns? And so the measurements on there, if I'm not mistaken, were like a 1/4 inch too short of the legal limit at the time.
Yeah, it was close.
It like, okay, like that's it's the gun law thing. Like, we're not going to get over a gun law debate right now, but
No.
Rabble.
rabble, 1/4 inch. So yeah, that was Jesus. It's just, but this is what you do. You try to set somebody up, you get them to do something illegal, so you can arrest them, and then Tony, go ahead. What they do from there?
Well, that was kind of what I was thinking. Like it felt like a complete setup from the get go. Like, this guy is the informant to the ATF. So I feel like the whole transaction was nothing more than just trying to get another informant on Team Informant in the form of Randy Weaver.
Exactly
So,
what it
Trying
was.
to turn him into a
It's
CI.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're just trying to increase the ranks.
That means confidential informant. A CI is actually it's a whole thing in law enforcement investigation. And Randy would have been like, I'm sorry, if you were an agent for the FBI investigating this group, Randy Weaver would have been the perfect guy to get as a CI. He's close, but not too close. And so that's why he was selected.
They played it wrong, though. They played it absolutely wrong, because all
they misjudged him. Yes,
they did, and it did nothing more than to keep sparking that distrust.
He literally told him to go get fucked, and then
he didn't want to do it,
and then
they
outed.
just kept pushing.
Yeah, he outed their informant that did the sawed-off shotgun thing with him. So now they're out an informant. They really need him, and so they threaten to press charges on him.
So keep that in mind right out of the gate. So he befriends this informant. And his first interaction with this informant, really, the big one, is an illegal setup to acquire firearms through him so he can be manipulated into becoming an informant. So right out of the gate, the ATF is manipulating Randy Weaver. And that really, it just snowballs so badly from there. It just does nothing but to validate all of those worries, concerns that he had from the get-go, for the whole reason he moved out to Idaho. So when he refused to become an informant for the ATF, federal agents purchased a weapons charge against him. He was arrested and released with a trial set for February 19th, 1991. The trial was then moved to February 20th, but a probation officer sent a letter to Weaver incorrectly stating that the new trial date was March 20th. When Weaver failed to appear for trial, the court issued a bench warrant for his arrest. Weaver was subsequently indicted by a federal grand jury for failing to appear at trial, and the U.S. Marshal Service was tasked with arresting him. So, okay, before we go into that, there's a lot going on here. Right out of the gate, this was set for February 19th. They moved it to the 20th of February. I believe the reasoning behind that was to give people extra time to travel over a holiday weekend, and I believe the holiday is President's Day. So real vital that they moved that an entire fucking day. So right out of the gate, this is just totally screwed up. He gets the wrong date for a trial that he should have never really had to deal with in the first place. So then the paperwork he gets sets it a month in advance. So when he doesn't show up, and people are skeptical whether he was going to show up regardless, but that does not matter. This is an injustice on a paper trail level, because if you're indicted and they say, hey, show up March 20th, you don't show up because, oh, guess what? It was actually February. This is a failure on so many bureaucratic levels. You have to assume that so many of these failures had to be intentional. There had to be a lot of intentional failures.
What?
I know.
Are you
Can you
calling
believe it?
this a conspiracy?
Drink. Damn it.
It's so you know this guy is living out in Idaho with like no running water other than a river floating by his house, no phone, no electricity. So you know he can't answer the phone. You know it's probably a fucking hike out to the post office to get his damn mail. Now,
Right.
I do believe he actually contacted the court-appointed attorney first. So he had access to a phone, but he probably had to go a distance.
He probably had
find
to go
somebody
to a white supremacist house.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
he didn't have a phone sitting there in his house. So it wasn't like he could just ring up the lawyer and go, hey, so what's going on now? But they knew that. So they knew he wasn't privy to all the new information. So if you can change the date around, if you can give him bad information from the get-go, he's at your mercy again. So this is strike number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all wrapped into one here. The guy never stood a chance. So of course they're going to be able to start issuing bench warrants and moving him up the list of suspicious people. So this goes on, and when he failed to appear at trial, the U.S. Marshal Service was tasked with arresting him. Marshals assessed that Weaver and his family were likely to resist violently if confronted directly. So plans for a stealth operation were drawn up, and then this starts getting into the actual siege itself.
They actually did arrest him and his wife. They posed as people with a flat tire. And so Randy and his wife stopped to help him out. You're out in the middle of the wilderness in northern Idaho. It's a terrible place to be by yourself. They see a motorist stranded on the side of the road. They go to pull over and help him out. And it was a setup. And then they arrest him. They have to post bail. And that's why all this started, because the only way he could post bail, he had to put up his house and his property for bail. So he thought, okay, the government tried to fuck me over with the shotgun thing. They gave me the wrong goddamn court date. And then they arrest me and my wife and like set us up as we're trying to be good citizens and help a stranded person on the road. He's thinking he has done nothing wrong up to this point. And now he had to put up his only possession, which is his property in his house, for collateral so he could get out of jail and go back to his home. So this dude has no options now. He's like, and I almost said it. His mind is going, what else do I do? Do I just give in, or do I fight back? How do I do this? And so like Tony was saying, this is where it all starts.
So that's what's interesting though, because the actual arrest, that original arrest was let me see. They were arrested and released like right away within a few days, I believe, because he didn't really have a record to begin with. And the trial was set for February 19th. Then they moved it to the February 20th. It wasn't until August 21st of 1992. So we're talking almost a year and a half.
Yeah, it was an 18-month sit-in.
Yeah, like this sits idle. Now, was there a regime change or something amongst the marshal's office or the FBI or the ATF?
From what I understand is the FBI and ATF, like this slowly got more and more news. So you know how the news cycle works today, like something that's kind of insignificant, not a big deal. There's other things going on in the world. There's a lot of criticisms of the ATF and FBI. And then they start bringing up, well, what about this guy in Idaho? What about this white supremacist group in Idaho that they're investigating? This one guy, they can't even go in and get this one guy and his family out of his home. Like the media was almost taunting the FBI and ATF and government agencies.
Yeah.
Shocker. And they looked really bad in this whole scenario of you can't even get this dude out of a cabin in the middle of nowhere in Idaho. What's wrong with you guys?
It's like they chose him because they thought that, okay, it's one guy, his family, they're out there. We could pretend like they're going to get violent. We'll go in, we'll get them. We'll look like fucking badasses who are awesome at our job. It was a patsy. I mean, he's been a patsy through this entire timeline, basically. So
not saying he's a good guy, but he is a patsy.
No, he's guilty by association. He got manipulated into selling firearms. He's obviously not
manipulated by white supremacists, probably too. And,
absolutely. He gets used pretty much throughout this entire thing. But a lot of it, he did put himself in the situation. If you go to these white supremacist meetings, sorry, I mean, I can't feel too sorry for you if you get mixed up in some bad shit. You know what's going on there.
You can only have so much sympathy.
Yeah.
It's like, who would have thunk me like putting a firecracker in my hand and lighting it might have some bad effects. Like,
it's just stunning to look at it and go, okay, who's really the bad guy here? The actual bad guys, or the people who were manipulating people who wouldn't have been doing bad shit until they were caught up in a whirlwind of bad shit? So so they picked him to be a patsy. They thought this was going to be an easy in and out deal. So they start scoping the place out. And that's when they started drawing up the plans for the stealth operation. To go in, and you could say they were casing the joint, but really I think they were stoking the flames at this point. And this was on August 21st in 1992. So they go in, and supposedly they're just doing a recon mission, right? Looking the place over, trying to figure out what's going to be the best plan of action. Get in, get out, take them all without any violence, without the little amount of force as possible. So apparently these guys chucked a rock, supposedly at the house, I believe, to stir up the dogs and see what the dogs were going to do. That's one account. So the dog comes out. It's like a golden lab, not a vicious animal by any means. So it comes out and starts running up on these guys. One of them shoots and kills the dog because, I mean, sure, it's a tense situation. You see a dog running at you. You're armed with an M16. You want to protect yourself. They shoot the dog. I'm not going to sit here and justify that. I think it's a dick move. I think it's bullshit. They probably stirred it up to begin with. Whatever. He defends himself from the dog that he can allegedly say attacked him. Problem is,
somebody else's property.
On somebody else's property, exactly. Problem is, and they have, according to the Weaver side and Harris's side of this, they haven't not even said out loud that they are U.S. Marshals. They haven't said who they are, why they're there. Nothing has happened yet. Dog sees him, runs up, dead dog, boom. Problem is, now you've got the 14-year-old at this time, his son, Sammy Weaver, sees this. He's like, you son of a bitch.
So this is separate from the house. So I showed the house a minute ago. So
yes.
What had happened is they had heard the dog barking, and they thought maybe this is the site of the Weavers. They had thought that maybe he had found an animal or a deer. They're holed up in a house for 18 months. They're like, fuck yeah, food. Let's go see what the dog's going after. And so it wasn't everybody. Like the dad didn't go, mom didn't go, the daughters didn't go. It was the 14-year-old, a family friend, Kevin, were in one other. I'm trying to remember who the other one was, but just those three go running down there to go see what's going on with the dog. And the dad was like, he knew something was wrong. And he tried yelling for him. Supposedly, Randy said, boys, this is an ambush. After they were about halfway down the hill, they didn't hear. And then the gunshot started ringing out.
Yeah. And this was, let me see. During this reconnaissance team of deputy marshals, they unexpectedly encounter Harris, Weaver's son, and that's Samuel. He's 14, and the family dog. Deputy U.S. Marshal William Deegan, Samuel Weaver, and the dog are all killed in the shootout. Samuel Weaver fired at, I believe, Deegan. I can't remember if he hit Deegan or if it was Harris. Yeah, he shot at them because, hey, these guys, he has no idea where they just killed his dog. So he's freaked out. He returns fire at him. I think I can't remember what he was carrying. I don't remember the specific gun.
So let's stop, because this was actually really horrifying. The I'm trying to remember the name of the lead guy, the lead ATF or FBI guy that was in charge of this little group coming up the hill.
Yeah.
They did an interview with him, and he was pretty candid with it. He's like, the boy had shot at us, and he goes, and I saw my men go to shoot back at him, and they struck him in the elbow. And graphic warning here, it pretty much separated his arm. And then he said, to see another one of my men after he'd fell down and he was already shot in the elbow, he's shot in the back, and the boy gets up to try to run away. They took an automatic and just mowed him down. And so even he was like, I couldn't believe one of my men could do something like this.
See, that's the thing. You get these
it was
guys
brutal.
These guys have never been in a war type situation like this, and it shouldn't have been like that. It didn't have to be like that. So they weren't prepared for this intense situation, and they reacted like somebody who probably shouldn't be carrying a firearm in this instance. So yes, the son's killed very violently in the back. He's 14 years old. It's a ridiculously awful situation. So he's killed, the dog's killed, and Marshal William Deegan are all killed. I believe Harris is the one that probably killed William Deegan. I can't remember the exact account. He was carrying, I think, a much higher caliber weapon than Samuel was. So there's two different accounts on this, and obviously the Harris and the Weavers is going to be vastly different than the U.S. Marshals. But
Yep.
they said the forensics of the casings and the bullets did not really line up with what the U.S. Marshals were implying, because there were more rounds, I believe, recovered from the site. And if you looked at the trajectory of the bullets, the person tasked with killing Samuel had to actually move forward as he was firing to strike
Right.
him down the way that he was struck down. So, yeah, again, you painted the graphic picture already, but you can already tell that this did not go the way that they wanted, and they had to figure out a way to justify the lethal brutality that they let unfold.
So in classic government bureaucracy fashion, what do you do in a tragic scenario like this?
Double
Blame
down.
them.
Double fucking
Yep.
down. Here's what they did. Federal government acting under the behalf that their men were pinned down, which was not the case at all.
No.
The men retreated. They were all in communication with each other. They unleashed an astonishing display of manpower in helicopters and armored vehicles. 400 men and women from FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals, and a half dozen other agencies converged in northern Idaho. The feds set up a base camp about a mile from the Weavers' cabin. They had helicopters, they had tanks, they had trucks, they had U-Haul trucks. They set up huge tents and camps for this little family out in the middle of nowhere with a few rifles. This was overkill.
Complete overkill. The plan that they put in place essentially said kill almost everybody on site with lethal force, regardless of their being armed or not.
Yeah, they were given directions, or the what was the what do you call it, the engagement?
Rules of engagement
were changed and sent to Washington and signed off on shoot to kill if you see pretty much if you see a man with a rifle or some shit.
Now it
like
included
that.
It's because I think originally it included Vicky Weaver, but I think they changed it, but maybe they didn't all supposedly get that information before the bullets started flying, so they had deniability at that point. So it's just more paperwork bureaucracy, just following this entire operation. What are we seeing here on the screen for those?
So this is one of the pictures of their encampment. So you can see these either look like bolt action, maybe semi-automatic rifles, possibly, you can't really tell. But yeah, it's a very primitive place where they're living. So that's Vicky. That's the dog below her feet there. I think that might be Samuel on the right, and then I'm not sure who the guy on the left is. But so this is before that. This is when they were being surveilled and before the shooting had originally started. Hold on. So
clearly we need air raid strikes and tanks here.
Right. So here's their on their property. This is where they're living. They made this cabin themselves. This is their home. This is the terrain they're living on. And then there's like a small road or path to get up there. So yeah, the level of surveillance from a paranoid guy who has seen nothing but bad things coming from his government in the past, and then he moves to get away from it, and then the government seems to double down, and then they throw him in jail. He's about to lose his property. Then now they've killed his son, killed his dog, attacked his family and property, and they're doubling down with 400 people down the hill.
Yeah, this just gets even worse, because at this point, this is what I think when they start moving in the FBI sharpshooters. This is August 22nd. This kind of glosses over it a little bit, but what I believe the details of how it went down, FBI sharpshooter Lon Horiuchi is focused on, I think, the barn at this point, and he sees Randy.
So before that,
up to the loft.
on this same day, this stuff has already hit the news. This is nationwide news. Protesters are pulling up and at the bottom of the hill on the road, like losing their fucking mind while they're putting snipers up, and they're ready. The snipers are ready while this is going on. Here's one picture of the protesters on the way up there as all these troops are heading up to go take out Randy and his family.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Parallels, like we said. So at this point, the FBI sharpshooter sees Randy Weaver like entering a loft, I believe, of the barn, and this is where the body of Sam Weaver is. He's going up to see the body of his son who was killed the day before.
Yep.
And the FBI sharpshooter takes this opportunity, fires off a round. I believe he's about 200 yards out at this point. And these are guys who are trained to hit a dime from further distance from that. So this isn't an amateur shot by any means. He hits him, I believe, in the chest. I think it came out or in the shoulder.
It was like in the shoulder.
Yeah, shoulder, and it comes out his right armpit. So he's wounded, and he's trying to get back to the house at this point, I believe. And that was when Harris, their friend who bring them supplies, who was there during the day before when all the shooting started, I think he's in the doorway. And the FBI sharpshooter takes this opportunity to take another shot.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it goes through him or past him. And this is when it hits Vicky, wife of Randy Weaver. Basically, I believe it hits her right in the head. Mm-hmm. She's holding her 10-month daughter at this point. You can debate whether or not this guy saw that or not. Doesn't matter. The reasoning behind that second shot is just absolutely asinine. If Randy's the prime target, you've already wounded him, right? What in the blue hell is the reasoning behind this? He shoots past this guy, hits Vicky, kills her, obviously, instantly. She's holding a baby, for Christ's sake. I believe the graphic details of this are the splatter from her hits the other daughter.
So the other daughter speaks about this. She's got a documentary that she speaks about this, to where her dad was like, I want to go see my boy one last time. He knew shit was about to hit the fan. He's like, I just want to say goodbye to my son, pretty much. Yeah. The shot happens. He gets shot in the shoulder. So her and her mom are in the doorway yelling at everybody, get inside, get inside. And she's standing there right next to her mom when they're coming through the door, like you said. And then she's like, I saw my mom fall, my dad go grab the baby, and I was wiping mom off my face.
Ugh.
For a little girl, just her little, her best friend brother had just been killed the day before, and all this chaos, the fear she had, that was one of the most powerful things. I think she was like 12 or something when all this happened, but like the fear she had, she's like, I was afraid to look out a window. I was afraid to open the door because I thought they just wanted to kill us all. That was the how terrified she was of this whole situation. I don't think you need a dad or a mom to scare you at that point and tell you shit and indoctrinate you at that point when people are just getting shot all around you like that. Fuck you, I'm staying inside. I ain't going nowhere. Like, y'all just gonna shoot me. That was really crazy, frightening. And look up any of this. There's a bunch of YouTube videos on here. This whole thing is just sad.
Yeah, I don't know. What's his name? Lon Horiuchi. He also wounds Harris, and he wounded Randy, obviously. He said he fired because he believed they would shoot at a surveillance helicopter. There was some skepticism on him actually firing at a helicopter the day before. Okay, regardless of that, how does that justify the shot? It fucking doesn't.
No.
The next day, Harris charged with Deegan's murder and Weaver charged with lesser crimes in federal case. And then a week later, on August 30th, is when Harris surrenders, and on the 31st, Weaver finally.
So that skips a lot. There's a lot of days in between there of shit that happens.
Yeah, solid week. Let me bump back over to this other one.
So here's a picture of what it kind of looked like at the bottom of the hill for this Randy and Mr. Harris. So they from some of the stuff after they killed Vicky, it seemed like they didn't know they killed Vicky. They're doing press conferences.
That's the fucked up part.
They're doing press conferences and trying to like plead over the radio. They're having radio personalities try to reach out to the family and try to plead to Vicky. They even get on megaphones every morning and they're like, Vicky, it's okay. Come outside and have breakfast with your children. And like they're sitting in the house staring at her dead on the floor in the kitchen. And they think
Randy
that they're mocking.
They're
mocking.
Yeah.
He's like, they're fucking mocking us now. What the fuck kind of sick, twisted shit is this? Like, that's where his head's at. Now, I don't care who you are, if you side with Randy or anybody on this. Like, the emotional stress that you're put under, you just lost your 14-year-old kid. You just lost your wife. There's so much shit going. Yeah, you're shot. You like this has got to be just crazy traumatic at that point. So yeah, I would probably think you're fucking mocking me too. I probably wouldn't be very rational in that moment and not have a whole lot of sympathy moving forward.
No, none. Absolutely none. And yeah, it's just getting worse and worse and worse outside at this point. Yeah, the protests and the sympathy from the people protesting, and not just the protesters. Is at this point, is this when like the white supremacists start trying to sneak weapons up to the farm? They're detained, obviously, but they're trying to get weapons to the family so they can protect themselves.
Images of that too.
Pretty ridiculous to think about the situation.
I do have to share this. Just a sign of the times. Let's lighten the mood a little bit because we've been getting a little heavy on here. Look at that dude's mullet. Drink.
Drink.
I love the uniforms and the it's just what people were wearing back then.
Don't tell my heart, my aching heart.
So there's Randy and his wife, and they got married. So yeah, here you go. So white supremacist, you can see, he's got the good old symbol on there. So skinheads show up, drink.
Yep.
Johnny Bungarter shouts at officers, angry seeps from the woods. Whatever. I'm not sure who that guy is, but that picture looks really familiar, though. I should probably know who this guy is. Maybe he was just.
Dad? Is this like the dad of the cat lady that's pointing at the white cat?
Oh Lord!
Remember that Oakland A's hat?
This is amazing.
Who did not know somebody who had that hat?
Not just that, but look,
and that hair.
He's wearing a Super Bowl T-shirt, I think, and she has got a mullet herself and a beautiful
jacket.
Yes, a beautiful Canadian tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
that brings back so many memories.
That's a great picture. That is a great picture.
Here's them getting arrested after trying to smuggle the guns.
Yeah, this is the skinheads trying to smuggle guns up to the farm, and that's what I mean. It's such a ridiculous situation. The ATF, the FBI are the supposed law enforcement good guys trying to do something good, and the fucking skinheads drink again are trying to smuggle weapons in for the family to protect themselves from the government. Do you not see why people are freaking out about this at this point?
Yes. So,
and I'm just thinking, boy, this is a lot for a 1/4 inch of steel off the end of a shotgun barrel.
Yeah.
Which, technically hasn't even gone through and like it hasn't even gone through jury. Like they don't even know if they're going to really charge him with anything.
To quote Ron Burgundy, boy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very. Yeah, one of the podcasts I listened to brush up on this, the comment that really got me early on at this point was they're talking about the sawed-off shotgun and how he sold it to the informant, and the guy his immediate reaction to this was, "Wow, so we have had gun laws in the past, and they do work, huh? Jeez." And I'm just like, "You snotty little bitch!" It just got worse from there.
Can I repeat? Podcasts over the last year have gone to shit. Nobody
All
cares
ex-
about your uneducated opinion.
All
Yeah.
except Big Bucking Empire.
I know,
and the
right?
KOE Nation.
We get it right over and over.
And Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast. Those are the 3 podcasts that have gotten it better than anybody. Yes, Big Bucket
Undeniable.
Empire, KOE Nation on YouTube and Twitch, and of course, Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Those are the
Exactly.
only 3 that have gotten it right. And in fact, are really the only 3 you need to watch.
Absolutely. You nailed it right there.
I mean, couldn't have said it better myself.
So,
Why I let you?
okay. So Randy and Kevin and the girls that are still sitting up there in the cabin. So Randy and Kevin are both shot.
Yeah.
They're both injured. It sounds like Kevin's wounds are a little bit more mortal or more damning. And it sounded like that bullet, from what I remember reading, the bullet was lodged in his like chest cavity, just inches from his heart. Like it ripped him up pretty good, and he was bleeding out really bad. But nobody could talk these guys into coming down. So who did they call?
Ghostbusters?
Yeah, I think it was the Ghostbusters.
Bo
Well, I mean-
fucking Grits.
Oh.
That might be the greatest name in the history of names.
They call a libertarian presidential candidate, former Green Beret, Bo Grits, to come and talk to him.
Yeah.
So as they sat
this
there
is the
for a
third
week.
party, and he could kind of relate to Randy because of his military background.
Yep. That's pretty much what it was. It was like, hey, why don't you get him somebody you can trust? Because the sentiment
for
coming
once.
out of, for once, the one person that's not going to come up and try to kill him. So Bo goes up, talks to him. Mind you, the press doesn't know Vicky's dead. They don't know anything about what's going on at this time. And so there's 7 days of like pretty much silence of them just holed up, and they get Bo. Bo comes up the hill. And right away, Randy knows who Bo is. He's Green Beret like Randy was, and like we said, libertarian presidential candidate. So he's pretty popular. And right away, Randy looks out the window and says, "Is that you, Bo?" And Bo's like, "God damn it, yeah, Randy. What the hell's going on in there?" And then Randy, he's up there for like an hour talking to Randy. He's like, "They killed her. They shot me. They shot Kevin. Like, here's all the shit that's happened. You want me to come out? Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
And so Bo comes down, and when they ask him, they're like, hey, what did he tell you? He goes, "You guys really fucked up this time." It's like-
Yeah. Relaying all that, like being under the assumption that, hey, this guy's gone nuts with his family and he's just causing quite the stir up. I better go talk to him. And then finding out the details of what's been transpiring and having to go back and be like,
You guys
whoa.
fuck this up.
You guys
bad.
fucked this up bad. That's
Bo,
just,
would you please not talk to the press? I'm sure that.
yeah. Would
Yeah.
you do us a solid? Yeah, fuck you. No.
So
Unbelievable.
when the head of the ATF had to come out and do a press conference and announce that Vicky was dead, those protesters about lost their fucking minds.
Yeah.
They were like ready to riot on the side of the road down the hill from Randy's house. Like, don't blame them. Like, some of them are kind of off the wall weird people, but like,
Sure.
seriously, you like it was completely uncalled for. Again, don't know details. I wasn't behind the looking glass of that sniper rifle, but yeah, bad deal. What was that guy's name again?
Which guy?
The shooter, the sniper?
Let me see. It was. Just had it. FBI sharpshooter. Make me scroll back up, you bastard.
Yeah.
Lon Horiuchi. How do you pronounce that?
I
have
Just
got
had
to
to-
be fucking.
Just had to
that
see
up.
that again.
Horiuchi.
That's,
That's how it's spent.
So yes, that was a very unfortunate incident, and it was really unfortunate that any of those people had to lose their lives. This was really, like I said, this escalated way too quickly, and this was one of those like. It's like Abraham Lincoln once said that sometimes the path of mercy is preferable to the path of strict justice.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been an instance where somebody with a tiny bit of mercy might have. Now, as much as I hate to say, at the very
Or a
beginning
tiny
of
bit
all-
of justice.
I was about to say at the very beginning of all of this. I mean, Randy had a pretty good entrapment case. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, make of it what you will. Now, this is before everything really escalated, but yeah, that was yeah, it's really unfortunate that it really had to get here. And this is one of those instances where, again, sometimes protesters, you're not helping. Okay?
Yeah,
I've been
sometimes
saying
it makes
this for
things
the
worse.
last 2 years. Protesters, sometimes you're not helping. And this is another one of those instances where you're not helping things. So, oh, Lord.
Yeah.
So,
This was like you said, this kicked off modern day conspiracies. Drink.
but now, Tony.
and-
I was going to say,
I was
now,
gonna say-
Master of the timeline, we got to know how this movie ends.
Oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. All right, let's wrap this up. As far as the story goes, so they let
Yeah.
Bo talks him into letting Kevin come out because Kevin's about to die. He's bleeding
Yeah.
out. And then, how many days later was it before Randy finally gave it? Was it the next day?
Yeah, August 30th is when Harris surrenders. He comes out, and then
'Cause I remember
31st
Bo. He let Bo take his wife's body.
God.
Like he brought up a body bag and took his wife's body down so they could. Yeah, they've
Wow.
been sitting there for a week staring at the body the whole time. So like, hats off to Bo. I don't know any of his politics. I really don't know who the guy is, but like,
Doesn't
dude, that's
matter at that point.
a badass
Yeah.
name. If it wasn't for him though, who's to say the government would have just kept going?
I think if it wouldn't have been for that agreement through him, no, this doesn't end with anybody walking out of there. Because at one point they thought, well, we're just gonna have to steamroll over this. You can't tell me that wasn't going through half of their heads. We're just gonna have to steamroll over everything, cover it up after the fact, because they were already doing that in real time. It just, yeah. If it wouldn't have been for him, this would have been even worse than it already was. But yeah, it was the next day Weaver surrendered, the 31st. And then jumping way ahead, September 17th, he pled innocent to aiding. Weaver pleads innocent to aiding in Deegan's murder. And the next day, September 18th, Harris pleads innocent to murdering Deegan.
Yep. Anyway, they go through court for God knows how long. Ends up government has to pay out his family $3.1 million. Yeah. Government goes, shit.
Yeah, they got charged with murder, conspiracy, and assault. And yes, the Idaho jury acquitted Harris of all the charges. Weaver was convicted of failing to appear for the original firearms charge. So he served what, like 17? Was it 17 months of whatever his sentence was? Or even, I don't even know if it was that many for the firearms charge.
I don't
The
even think it
original
was that.
I don't think it was even that.
All
I
of
think it was
this-
only 18 months.
All of this over a quarter inch of steel that the government set a guy up to do.
They pushed
Yeah.
him into the sale to set him up as a patsy, to gain him as an informant.
Literally
this
a guy who
all
says he
because they
just
could.
wants to be left alone.
Mhm.
That's literally all he's ever said. I'm going to shut that off. I just had a Nazi flag waving behind me. I don't want any of that shit going on.
Yeah.
That was fucking
Yes.
weird. I look up at myself. I'm like, nope. That's a
Yeah,
bad look.
That's a nay.
That's a nay.
No.
Somebody can clip that out and throw it on Twitter real fucking fast.
Like chicken out of context. Like,
Watch the episode. I can't find the episode. They took that down.
I'm going to have
That
to
didn't
blur
take-
that out.
that didn't
Yeah.
take long. Oh, Lord. So, in the end,
Let me see.
the ATF had to do a sorry. We fucked
Yeah.
up. And he got
We
paid
sure did.
3.5 mil. That's wow. I didn't know that part. But yeah, that was one of those. I kind of figured when it was all said and done, they were just gonna, when he's served his 17 months, the government was just gonna go, well, no givesies backsies, right?
Right.
Because that's the way it usually goes for most folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they wanted to do. Let me finish up the Britannica article here. This is an inquiry by the Justice Department criticized the FBI for failing to gather sufficient intelligence and for not ordering the residents of the cabin to surrender before engaging them in a firefight. It also concluded that Horiuchi's second shot was unconstitutional because Harris and Weaver were running for cover and could not be considered imminent threats. The inquiry further alleged that Horiuchi unnecessarily endangered others by firing at the door of the cabin. Nevertheless, the U.S. Attorney General decided that criminal charges against Horiuchi were unwarranted. Prosecutors in Boundary County, Idaho, however, charged Horiuchi with involuntary manslaughter. The case was removed to a federal district court, which dismissed the charges against Horiuchi on grounds that he was immune from prosecution because he was acting in his official capacity. An appeals court affirmed the district court's ruling, but a second en banc, fuller complement of judges, panel reversed that decision and required that Horiuchi stand trial. Before a third, larger panel could be convened to consider that decision, the state of Idaho announced it was dropping charges and all three earlier rulings were vacated. And yes, in 1995, the federal government settled a lawsuit brought by Randy Weaver and his three surviving daughters.
Oh, Lord Almighty. Now, funny enough, I mean, this last year has definitely shown us that the standards have definitely changed in terms of being charged for such things. So, whew, boy, howdy. That was, it's a modern day Othello. It is a tragedy no matter which way you want to look at it. I mean, there's way too many dead people for this story.
Yeah, way too many dead kids. There's only one in this. That's way too many. But yeah, it's just way too much fuckery afoot with the government's hand. So this we'll kind of shift a little bit here in a minute and talk about a couple other things and wrap up. But like this is kind of part one of these pre-recorded, because this is kind of an interesting how this escalates. I love how Phil kind of kicked it off, how this is kind of like the first round of the modern day conspiracies drink. Patient zero. So
fortunately, some of the cast of this very story show up in another episode that we got coming down the pike.
Yep. So again, next week live, we're going to be doing the Andre second annual beer challenge. Join us live here. But then the following week, we're going to take a little trip to Waco, Texas, and have a little follow-up to what happened after Ruby Ridge. And it's all going to culminate into a beautiful spectacle and a trifecta of holy fuckery in the Oklahoma City bombing.
Whoa, folks, that we got a lot of content coming.
So what's Randy up to these days?
Is he still alive?
Holy shit.
I assume it's doing documentaries about Ruby Ridge.
Probably.
I'm looking this up right now. This is kind of crazy, but I didn't realize this. Randall Claude Randy Weaver is a former U.S. Army engineer known for his role in the Ruby Ridge standoff near Naples, Idaho in 1992. Weaver and his family, a friend named Kevin Harris, engaged in our blah, blah, blah. We just covered all that. Born January 3rd, 1948, age 73 years, must be still alive. Born in Villisca, Iowa. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Interesting.
I'll be damned. Go figure.
Lord
Been there a few times.
Oh,
so yes,
God,
he is still alive, 73 years old. I'm pretty sure he just kind of dug right down the rabbit hole of
probably
I fuck the government, and I'm assuming he got real involved with some of those probably less than amicable meetings of other like-minded people who weren't nearly as amicable as maybe he would have been had things not turned out the way they did. So, yeah, regardless of what you think of him, past, present, or future, he really got a raw deal in this situation, and there's really no other way to look about it.
Yeah. One of his daughters, Sarah, the one that was best friends with the boy that had passed away in this story. She lives obviously with what the money they got from the government. She's got a property up in Montana, kind of lives her own life, and kind of she said, you know, it was tough to deal with, but she overall kind of forgives everything that had happened. She's moved on. She tries to like get away from it. I'm sure she talks about postpartum and you know and trying to just erase all of this, but it's something she's got to live with, and it's always going to be following her. And so yeah, it's sad, you know. She's all grown up. She's our age, maybe a little older. I don't know. She's pretty close to our age.
I think probably a little older than us, because we were just wee little kids when this all went down.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, yeah, she's got a big old ranch up in Montana and has horses and kind of lives out in the middle of nowhere by herself. So that's good. She can live a happy life.
Yes, but folks, so that has been our take on Ruby Ridge, episode 1. Who knows? Maybe we'll revisit it at some point in the future. If you folks love this topic, be sure to let us know in the comments. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. But folks, gentlemen, Chicken, Tony, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us for this very special episode 88 on our coverage of Ruby Ridge. But don't you dare change from this channel, folks. Like, share, subscribe, because we got plenty more coming down the pike. We're going to be covering Waco. We're going to be covering Oklahoma City. We're going to be hitting the heavy hitters of some of the more interesting and some of the unfortunate sides of American history. So don't you dare tune away from that. But most importantly, folks, next week, the Andre the Giant Beard Challenge, 2nd annual memorial Andre the Giant Beard Challenge, right here at the Dog and Chicken Show. Help us, join us, get to 156 beers for our tribute to the boss, Andre the Giant. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil KOE. Find me at KOE Nation on YouTube and Twitch. I am the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the lord of the Scottish Highlands, the baron of baldness and bourbon, and the emperor of Big Bucking Empire. Signing off and handing it off to my indomitable broadcast partners. But folks, every last one of you beautiful people, raise a glass to yourselves. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thank you. God bless every last one of you. And I hope every last one of you comes back here next week, happy, healthy, much the wiser. Tony, Chicken, take it away.
Beautiful.
All right. So real quick, just wanted to say, yes, make sure to join us, like Phil said, next week, live Thursday, the 20th. Holy crap, you got to do it. You got to bring your beer drinking shoes, at least have 1 or 2 with us. Real quick, on the bottom there, you want to send us some hate mail, send it to this address, dogandchickenshow@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, dogandchickenshow@gmail.com. And if you
make
like
it
this
as
kind of
dirty
topic,
and raunchy, as mean as possible.
yeah, make it as brutal as you possibly can. But if you also have some ideas for topics, some questions, some comments, throw it at us anyway. Love to hear feedback from you. We like interacting with everybody who watches this stuff, so we appreciate you watching, listening, however you're finding us. But make sure to tune back again next week live. It's going to be a good one.
Hey, appreciate everybody tuning in to 3 guys having some drinks and reliving the story of Ruby Ridge. Cheers to all you beautiful people out there. As always, appreciate you. Love you. Bye. We'll see you all next week live with some beers in hand. Good night.
Booyah.
And see if it just smooths itself out.
Back. Tell you what I'll do if I ever get back. I promise to refabricate you, raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost. We gotta take it down. Let you down slow. It's hard to survive. And